Okay, here we are again, once again live. That means it must be Monday. So if you're unclear, today is actually Monday, May the 13th. It is springtime. We are heading into summer. I am coming to you live now from New Jersey, from a place called Marlboro. My name is David Rendelstein. I'm the owner of ThinTech Weight Loss. Today we have a really special guest. This is an old friend of mine. I hate to say an old friend of mine, but we've known each other for quite some time. I'm not going to even say how long we know each other for. But if you want to be inspired, which most people do, most people need, every once in a while we need food for our soul, this is the gal to do it. Okay. I met Nika. We met way back in high school. We both grew up in this town. I'm not sure how we met. I think through a friend named Bruce, or maybe it was a friend named Dara. But we met each other. We've known each other on and off, as I said, for a long time. And she's a different cat. She has recently written a book. She's an entrepreneur. But the narrative, the thing that we're going to talk about is how her purpose in life has always been to inspire people, to entertain and inspire. And then one day she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And where some people might have been broken from that, Nika somehow became stronger. This is Diana Prince we're about to talk to. She inspires people. She delights people most of the time. So without further ado, I want to bring her on. Let me see if I know how to do it. Okay, there we are. Hi, Nika.
You did it. Hello, Dr. R. Is that
How
what I
are
need to call
you?
you? I'm great, thank you. I'm
Good.
so
You're streaming this now, correct?
yes, you're on my page and I guess your page. I guess
So
we're
all of your
everywhere.
people, you're shiny, happy people.
Yeah, shiny
Everyone
happy.
can see it says shine behind you. You've always been a shiny person, and now you've kind of branded yourself as the shiny person.
Have I always been a shiny person? That's
I think you've
interesting.
always been shiny. You've always had shiny eyes
Oh, okay. And
and,
I
and
try to
a
have
shiny
shiny skin.
personality.
Thank you. You
You've
too. That's why we're attracted to each other.
That's right. Well, let's not go there.
Okay.
You're a married woman, for God's sakes. But anyway, listen, I just so you know, I naturally bought the book because, of course, I did. How was I not going to get your book? I have not completed it. I've read, I
Okay.
think, 80 pages now.
Ooh, that's good.
Yes, and I got to tell you something. First of all, it is terrific, and I know, of course, I have to say that, but my expectations for you were not low; they were high. So I'm not delighted in that way. Like, okay, she's a dummy, and hey, look, she spelled her name right. It's not like that. I expected a lot, and you're delivering a lot. So
Oh,
thank you for that. And what's interesting is the emotion that I'm feeling is I'm actually proud.
wow. Thank you.
And that occurred to me yesterday. And then the next thought that occurred to me was, well, if I'm this proud, how proud must your parents be? And I could almost hear them. I don't know your parents well, but I could almost hear them. And your mom is probably like, I'm kvelling. This child is so brilliant and so talented. Everything she touches turns to gold. She is like Midas, except that she's brilliant, so she's like Marie Curie. So really, she's Midas Curie, but now she writes like Shakespeare, and of course, she's always sung like Streisand. My daughter is something else. She is a
Wow.
walking Machaya. Is that what she sounds like?
I don't know if that's going on in her head, but she didn't say that out
She's
loud.
never actually said that, but you're not privy to her conversations with her friends.
Right, I'm not. But yet, now that you're saying that, I really, even though she hasn't used words like that to me, I'm doing a book event, and I all of a sudden saw all the RSVPs coming in, and they're all like 20 of her friends. So apparently, she's inviting her friends because she
Oh,
is proud.
Nika, I know what's going on. It's just it's not even intuition. It's just fact. She is talking about you like that. First of all, she likely always has, but she's
Wow.
definitely doing it. And then, of course, your father is also proud. He's taking credit. They're probably fighting. He's probably like, "Of course, she's my kid. She came from my sperm." And then mom's like, "Your sperm? Are you on drugs?"
And he,
These are their conversation, at least in my head. But
okay, I like it. It's very entertaining.
let's get out of my head for a while and let's talk about your head, okay?
Okay,
So
great.
you wrote this book, and like I said, it's inspiring. But I want to hear, just in your words, what is the premise of the book, and what was your intent when you wrote it?
Uh, I it was about 3 years ago, I woke up one morning and I just rolled over, like, I had this thing in my head, like, "Oh my god, I know the book I'm going to write." I've always wanted to write a book. I feel like I always, and I've written, like, ebooks, and I have books for my clients and helping people grow businesses, but I feel like I needed a book. For some reason, this feels like a different kind of book, like a published book that's in bookstores, not just
Yeah.
for my clients online. Um, I just woke up and I thought, I know the book I'm going to write, because I had gone through, I was still going through the healing process, but I had, like you said, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I was going through the treatments and the journey of healing, and all of the stuff I had to go through, and it kept getting, all of the diagnoses kept getting, at first it was like, you have a little dot, it's going to be so easy to remove. It's as easy as a haircut, is what I was told. It's going to be like, in a few months, you're not even going to remember. It's just a little tiny bit of cancer. And then I had a test to make sure. And they're like, oh, wait, it's not that tiny. And the test after test kept showing it was bigger and worse and spreading. And all of a sudden, it wasn't as easy as a haircut. But I went through it with it. It felt like, because I was sharing what I was going through in the way that I always knew to go through things, like this philosophy of, you don't have to do things the way people tell you that you, like, we're taught to go through things in a certain way. When you have an obstacle or a challenge or something as horrific as a cancer diagnosis, you're supposed to feel a certain way, and you're supposed to, in order to help you, you join certain groups and you talk it out with certain people, and you commiserate, and you follow the steps that everyone goes through. I didn't, like, none of that felt right to me. So I went through my journey in what I felt way, and I shared it online as I was going through it, and people seemed to be inspired by it. So one morning I woke up and I thought, I'm going to put this all out in a book. And the point of it, like you had said, what's the premise? The premise is that all of the rules in life are made up. So why not write your own? Like, you are taught certain things, but they're not like, it's not like rules are made up by people. So, and you're a people, so write your own rules. Like, you don't have to follow someone else's way of doing things.
Script. I mean, and you use words like this. You use the, artistic metaphors, like metaphors like authorship and things like that. And individuals get to choose. Now, obviously, there are some people who are going to think that you are insane.
Mhm.
And I feel like if someone were to sit down and to meditate on life for several days, the only conclusion you can come up with is that we should all be unreasonably happy, most, if not all the time, even if we have a challenge like this. But what stops us from doing that? Is it that society has its own script?
Yeah, society has a script, and we're taught it from early on, and I don't think it's on purpose. It's everyone thinks this is the script to follow, and we're taught it, and so we naturally follow it. And you said, we should all just be unreasonably happy. And what I have realized is, even though I like to focus on the positive, the truth is we should. So I'm going to go back a few steps.
Let's rewind.
Something
Go ahead.
something happens, an unexpected obstacle happens in your life, and we have no control over that. Like, we're going to a big event outdoors and it rains. We have no control over the weather. There's nothing we can do about it. And yet, most of us try to fight the thing that we have no control over. We have no control over other people and how they react and how they treat us. but we try to control that. Like we try to control so many things we have no control over.
Yeah.
However, so we have no control over those circumstances, but we have 100% control over the thoughts we think, the feelings we feel, and the actions we take.
Right.
We have 100% control over all of that. And it starts with the stories that we tell ourselves about the thing that we can't control.
And this is what I want to get to, because it's well trodden ground that we get to choose our own reality. Like, Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, and he talks about, our last choice is our attitude in any given circumstance, right?
Yeah.
So, that's been discussed. That is not new. What I'm interested in is, what are the mechanics? How come you were able to do it and other people are not?
Okay. Other people are able to.
Of
And
course. Right,
so
but they don't for whatever reason.
yeah, so I want to talk about that, but I want to start by saying choosing positive or positive because is happy positive or negative? Like that's an opinion, I think. But choosing so-called positive emotions all the time is not effective. There are reasons to choose negative emotions and
Right.
to feel sad, to feel angry. Like I personally don't believe that if I see someone going through a challenge, someone homeless on the street, I could tell myself a story and feel happy about that. But I think that would not be effective. Like that would not lead to any great outcome. I can choose anger that leads to me wanting to take action to change the system where people get homeless in the first place and change laws. Like I could choose sadness and stop and talk to the person and give them some food or money. So negative emotions are effective.
Well, wait, but are you saying you need those negative emotions to take certain actions in certain circumstances?
Absolutely.
Why?
So
Why could you not be as effective choosing higher emotions as opposed to what you're describing now, which is more appropriate emotions for the circumstance that you're in?
So even though it seems like to most people that I'm always positive, in the book I don't know if you've gotten up to the part, but like when I learned that I had cancer and no one told me what to do about it, and so I had to find a doctor and realize that our healthcare system is such that like there were no appointments and people could see me in 3 months, and I had to go do all these things ahead of time to make it so that a doctor would see me. I could have chosen patience and calm and happiness and waited for a doctor to see me in a few months and allowed the cancer to spread and perhaps be fatal. Or I could choose impatience and anger, which led to actions of calling until a doctor would see me right
Right,
now.
and I did read that, where so it sounds like what you're saying is, instead of having this reactive state of anger, you thought about it and you said, "Well, anger is going to work better. Like, they're gonna feel anger from me, and they're more likely to do what I want them to do."
Yeah, or I mean, my anger led to my impatience. And instead of saying, I'll wait for the doctor to call me back, the action from impatience was, I'm going to call until I get an appointment. So it's like your thoughts evoke emotions, which encourage actions that lead to results. And if you start before you even tell yourself the story to lead to all of these things, if you start with, what do I actually want? Like, do I want to feel happy and patient and relaxed? Okay, then let's tell ourselves a story that would lead to that. But do I want to get an appointment with a doctor so that my cancer doesn't spread? I have to tell a different story. And it now here's the thing. It doesn't usually. So you had asked, why am I able to do this? It is not always conscious, and something happens and it's not like I go, before I react, what do I actually want? What story do I that's not how it happens. It's that I have practiced for years and years with little things. Like I always talk about, like, if I'm working on my computer on a project that needs to get done, and I'm getting frustrated and it's not getting done, and then the computer freezes, and it's like I feel
And
like, oh,
that's a daily occurrence. This is
right.
like that's a typical Wednesday, right?
Right. So things like that happen in our lives every day, unexpected, and there's nothing, we have no control over it. We now have to shut down the computer and wait 10 minutes and like, so I can feel extremely, I could tell myself a story that I'm never going to get this done. This always happens to me, which leads to anger and depression and frustration, and then I don't get the project done, or it gets done not well because I'm so feeling all over the place and distracted. Or I know that there are times that that's happened to me where I will have to consciously say, I have been getting so distracted with this project that I actually need this 10 minutes to calm down and center myself, and then the project will get done better. And then I have to tell myself, like, I think that this was done for me. Like, I think the computer shut down because I was not getting things done, and this
But
was done
are you
for
able
me.
to believe yourself in that moment? Because I would tell myself that story, and then I would say, "You're full of shit," and it would work, and then I would do what I usually do, which is put my head through the screen.
Yeah, and how does that work? Does that work? Because here's the
Well,
thing, I know you
of
could do
course
that,
it
and
does.
I could do it too. It doesn't work, and so why? So you're right. It's like, but we create our own reality. So
Yes, I do.
if you tell yourself, "I'm full of shit," and that's not true. This was not done for me. It was done against me, and then you throw the computer through the window. Like you can do that, and
Elon
that was
Musk
your
hates
choice.
me. At this point, I'm sure of it.
Well, who hates you?
Elon Musk, all of those tech
Yeah,
guys,
I
Zuckerberg,
know.
Musk, all of them, Soros.
Great. So if that's your reality, then how about you need to get revenge on them and get something done despite that? Like, you
Ooh,
could tell
vengeance. I
yourself
could get
that's
into vengeance this morning. I've had a couple of coffees already.
okay. So vengeance can lead to good results. So that's a really good point. So choosing a certain emotion, like choosing a story that leads to an emotion, is different for you. Like, what's effective for me is different than what's effective for you. Because I asked my husband, Rob, recently, like, what kind of emotion, if we needed to get more clients, like, and so I need to go out and make offers, and I need to try, and I need to go out and sell. What emotion do you need? If I said to you, you need to go out and sell today, what emotion do you need to have to encourage that?
And what
And
was his answer?
he said
Yeah.
fear. And I said, interesting. And I said, what, tell me more. And he said, if I was afraid that we were going to lose our business, that meant we were going to lose our house. And I would panic, and I would go out and I would sell if I really was afraid that all of that was going to disappear. And I thought that was so interesting because that would not work for me. Like, I need to feel confident and valuable to go out and sell. If I'm
Yes.
feeling fear, I hide under the covers. So
I,
everyone is
I I
different.
get that, and I think a lot of people are motivated by things like fear, by things like anger, and they can work. You wouldn't think they would, but Mickey Mantle was always worried about his father after his father passed away. Every at bat, he was worried about how his father would react to him. When
Wow.
he struck out. I mean, so it does work. Athletes talk about this all the time, but what does it do to the individual? I mean, that's another question.
Well, but what does it do? What result do you get if fear leads to you taking certain actions that lead to the result that you do want, then it's effective. But what do you want? And is your chosen thoughts and emotions leading to what you want?
If I were
Um,
Mickey Mantle, I wouldn't want my whole identity and relationship with my father at stake every time I stepped up to the plate.
okay.
Even though I would want the home run.
Great. So if you're getting the home run but not feeling good about your life, then that is not the result that you want. So that's
Right.
your
It's not
choice.
the whole result, right? But maybe in that moment, maybe that's what he needed to do to succeed.
Yes. And again, so even though this is all our choice and we can deliberately choose all of this, so I think we need to practice this with little things, because then it becomes more instinctual, because we don't have time to stop when something happens and say, let me think about what I want and let me think about what story I should tell myself. We don't do that. But the more we intentionally do that when, oh, I stubbed my toe and I can feel sad and upset. Like, what I mean is, a little thing happens. Why not practice this? What story can I tell myself that would lead to emotions, that would lead to actions, that would lead to the result that I want?
Right.
And if we practice that, then when big things happen, it becomes like, why was I able to, when the nurse walked into the room with a pamphlet, instead of saying, everything's good, your tests show nothing, you can go home, she walked in with a pamphlet and sat down and looked at me, and I knew something was different. And I could have just gone into, oh my God, my life is over. This is the worst thing that ever happened.
Right.
But immediately my mind went into, why is this happening for me? What kind of adventure will this be for me?
Well, and
And I
Nika,
started,
I was struck by that too. And again, I haven't finished the book, but how there wasn't a breakdown, how you immediately went into the story that you wanted to use and tell. Hemingway said that the world breaks us all, and some of us are stronger at the broken places, and those that aren't will be killed. So that's not how he said it. I just totally screwed it up, but you know, but there is utility also for breaking down, and it's a natural thing, and sometimes we use that to build ourselves back up. But you don't seem to have ever gone there, at least from what I read so far. There
yeah,
must have been, you're talking about narratives, there must have been the dark night of the soul.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. And so you haven't gotten to some of those stories yet, but yeah, there were definitely times where I gave into sadness and fear and anxiety. And because I think I keep practicing this, even those times didn't break me. I was like, this is time to feel this way. And I get to feel this way. And giving yourself permission to feel whatever you're feeling is great, because part of what keeps us feeling the negative is the guilt that we shouldn't be feeling the negative. And as soon as you go, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be feeling now, it makes it a little bit easier and quicker to come out of it.
Right.
Um, so that's
Right.
something I
So
learned too.
one of the things I thought about when I was reading it was I was in chiropractic school, and I injured my back terribly. I woke up one morning, I could not stand up. So I was crawling on the floor, literally crawling on the floor, worst pain I've ever been in my life. And at a certain point, I started laughing, and I said, this is fantastic. This is going to make me so much more compassionate when I have to deal with people who are experiencing this. So is that an example
Wow.
of what you're talking about?
Totally. Like, you
Okay,
told
good.
yourself a different story, because you
That's right.
could have told yourself, this is the worst thing in the world. My life is over. Why is this happening to me? Everything is delayed now. I have to lay around. Right. But you told yourself a very interesting story that allowed you to get out of it.
I was
And
delighted.
you what?
I was delighted.
Were you really?
There was a part of me that was, and you understand that. There's a certain, schizophrenia that takes place. You've described that in your book, not using those terms, but you've described that. There's one part of you that's saying this, there's another part that's saying that, right? The rational being is always present, no matter what kind of emotional turmoil exists.
And that's interesting that you're saying the rational, because that's another thing that we're taught. Like, those are rules that someone made up. Like, it's rational to feel this way and not rational to feel
That's
this
right.
other way. And I decided, it's rational, whatever, rational or irrational, that's your opinion. Is it irrational to feel delighted that you're hurt? Uh, no, I think it's perfectly normal if you choose that.
Yes, I mean it was a reframe, which I think is part of what you're saying is the mechanics. But another thought that occurred to me, and or a question that came up for me was, I mean, you were here face to face with mortality. We all know where we're going in the end. It's one thing to have that understanding. It's another thing to get slapped in the face with it. As part of this journey, did you have to come to grips with death?
It's such an interesting question, and people have asked me that a lot, and
Oh, shit, I
I
thought I was original.
yeah, I mean, not the way you asked it. You asked it in the most original way.
Better, much better.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And I I think my self-preservation, like, in order to get through what I was going through, I when the thoughts came up, like, "Oh my god, is this actually that, that thing where this is
Is
the
this it? Yeah, is
is
this
this it?"
it?
And I did not stay there. Um,
Right. But
one
you
of the
went
things
there briefly.
Yes. I
Okay.
mean, once in a while it would and once in a while it would be like as I'm scrolling Facebook and someone says, in memory of someone else who had this cancer and passed away. And I would have to look at that and I would be there for a moment and then be like, but that's not me. And I need to hear stories of people who survived so that I could focus on that. Um, so yes, it was there, but I also think it was fairly early on when I met with my oncologist, and my husband was there, and he said to my husband said to the doctor, "Are you confident that you can treat this cancer?" And he said,
We're
"Oh
gonna oh,
no,
sorry.
we're
I know
we're
this
not."
one. Go
You
ahead.
read that? So
Yeah.
you must be up to that part. We're not going to treat this. We're going to cure this. Like my job is to cure this, and that's what we're going to do. And so anytime the fears would come up, I would think, "Oh, but I was already told we're curing this. It's going to be a really difficult year and a half of going through this crap where the treatment makes you feel a lot worse than the illness. But I'll go through it and then I'll be cured." So I I kept remembering that.
Right. Right. Um, another thing that occurred to me when I was reading is a lot of this is very much tied up with identity. You were very candid in talking about how you were known for your breasts.
You
If
knew me
if
then.
if people are watching, oh yeah, but if people are watching, you had a double mastectomy. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. Okay. And so, what effect did that have on your identity? How you understand yourself and who you are? We know intellectually that's the body, but you were having this, very salient feature removed.
Yeah. I have to say that I truly believe that practicing this philosophy that we're talking about for so many years helped me because thinking about my identity growing up and even as an adult, my breasts and most women I would say your breasts and your hair are two of the
Right.
biggest
I didn't even
things.
mention the hair. Yeah.
So yeah, so even like, yeah, I was known as the girl and win silly awards for biggest, best breasts, like those kinds of like, and those were that was my
By the way,
identity.
that doesn't happen these days. That is a relic of the
No.
past.
Yeah,
That
so yeah,
could not
Jen,
happen now.
that's really you're right. You're right. Doesn't happen. Can you imagine? Okay, so
Were,
I'm
were,
dating
and were
myself.
you offended? Oh, I'm sorry. Were you offended by that? Were you proud of that? I mean, how do you respond to something like that?
I was proud and happy. I thought, "Oh, I don't know, I thought it was a good thing."
Okay, fine.
Um, yeah, I had no but so that was who I was, the gal with the breasts, and I had big, long, full hair, and I used it because I sing in a band, and I love, like, part of my performance is flipping and moving my hair, and anytime anyone would say, "Would you try a short haircut?" Oh my gosh, I would never, I need my hair, that's who I am. So, I lost both of those things, my hair and my breasts. Um, and on the one hand, I would like to say I have no idea how I survived that and came out feeling like better about my identity. On the one hand, I have no idea how that happened. On the other hand, it's because of this philosophy. It's telling different stories. Like now I get to try all those edgy, cool buzz cuts that I was always thought were so cool, but never had the courage to do. Like, how cool is that? I could focus on that or I could focus on the sadness of losing my hair. So why not? Like both of those are reality. So why not focus on the fun stuff?
Okay. Yeah. I've been losing my hair for quite some time now, and
Oh.
like you had long, beautiful black hair. I had a thick bush of hair, and I've been losing that. And that Samson story is in the Bible for a reason, right? And so every few months or so, I think to myself, okay, I'm shaving it all off, and I'm just going to give the finger to the universe and say, what are you going to do to me now?
Hmm. Okay.
I just wanted to share that with you, Nika. Just a little insight
I'll help.
into who you're talking to right now. You'll help me do it? No, I don't have the guts to do it. Like I'm hanging on to the strands.
Yeah, so that's what I used to say, like, "Oh, I so admire those women who cut their hair. I don't
Right.
have the guts to do it." And now the universe was like, "Well, I'll give you the finger. Now you have the guts to do it." I was like,
Was it
"Cool."
liberating when you did it? Was that liberating?
Yeah. So when I so the hair started falling out in clumps, like I'd go like this and pull out a giant clump of hair, and it was time to shave it off. And again, it was something like, isn't that you watch other people do that, you hear stories of other people do that, and all of the positive stuff in it was what I focused on, like how brave, how interesting, how much of an event. It's such an event. Now I get to do that. Yeah, so those were like the stories I would have to tell myself, and I did.
Do I remember correctly? Did your daughter do that as well?
She did no, she buzzed my hair for me. She did not shave
Oh,
her
got it.
head.
Okay.
She said to me, "When you lose your hair, I wanna shave my head." And I thought that was very sweet. She was 14 at the time, and she also had long hair, and my husband and I said, "That's really sweet, like, if you have to," but, like, we discouraged her because we were worried for her. But I also thought if she really wanted to, that would be the coolest thing. But in the end, she decided to bleach her hair and dye it hot pink, like, in support of me. So it's like, "Okay, that's cool."
She did something. Okay, right. So that was like a Solomon-like solution as opposed to shaving it all off, right? She chose a middle ground there.
Yes.
Question, Nika. Obviously, I mean, you've been lauded for your strength in this whole situation and your attitude. If you did not have the family that you have, their support aside, would you have indulged maybe those darker thoughts and emotions more?
I'm sure I would have. I absolutely we know that it takes a village, like, when you have support, things are so much easier. I had emotional support and I had support, like, I had 2 people in my house who, when I didn't feel good to get up and do things, they helped. So
Did
physically.
your husband and daughter know that these people were in the house also?
Unfortunately, actually, I know you're kidding, but no one could be in the house with us because it was lockdown. It was
Which is
2020.
a whole other thing. We haven't even gone there.
So no, I could not have the support of other people. Like in the beginning, I thought I'm so lucky to have friends and family who want to come over and help. And within like a few weeks, all of a sudden, no one was allowed to come over. And
Right.
especially, I was terrified because if someone was sick and I had no immunity, so I couldn't be around other people, even if it wasn't COVID going around, but it was. So I had to be all alone and
Fun
um,
times.
fun time. So that was another thing that I had to tell myself, like, how lucky am I that I don't have to feel guilty about not going out because no one is going out. So there were other fun stories around that too.
But again, what was there I mean, were you faking it for the sake of your daughter and husband, at times at least?
That's such a good question. I don't feel like I was faking it. I honestly was feeling when I said, when I laughed at things, when I found funny in things, truly was funny to me. It was positive. But what I didn't realize until later is that I didn't leave room for my daughter to express her anxiety and fear. I did think that since I was feeling positive, she was too. And it wasn't till about a year later when she started saying, I'd like to talk this out with a therapist. And I'm like, interesting. I thought we talked everything out, but she was afraid to express her anxiety because she didn't want to bring me down. And so,
Yeah. So there's a little conspiracy there, right? I mean, she doesn't want you to get upset. You don't want her to get upset. So
yeah.
you stuck to the safe ground.
Yeah. And I know she and her dad would talk. And I guess they were afraid to talk to me. So yeah, so that's something that um I I would do differently or suggest to someone going through this is that like leave room for that as well. Even though positive is great and it did help me get through tough times easier and faster, I think. Um there needs to be room for the hard stuff as well.
That would have been a hard thing to confront. I mean, all your daughter's fears and worries. I mean, is that something that you wanted to take on, or did you at some level think, okay, I don't want to have that conversation?
I don't think it came up. I honestly thought that my positivity rubbed off on her and she didn't have anything else. And I realize now how silly that is because everyone has all ranges of emotions. And I guess I thought because I she was still fairly young, but not too young to understand. But like she was in the car when I got a call and like heard that there might be something going on, like we didn't get the results yet. And I hung up and she said, "Well, what if it is cancer?" I said, "Oh, if it is, well, it's small enough, they said that they'll just cut it out, it'll be fine." And I thought saying that would like alleviate everything. Like I
Right.
didn't leave room for, and if it is, let's talk about it. And of course there's fear, but
But you
hopefully
had to be
everything.
conscious about not burdening her with that kind of overwhelm and what she's your kid. I mean, the last thing you want to do is see her upset.
Yeah, which is why I didn't wanna burden her, but
And she didn't want
I
to burden
also
you. That's the
she didn't wanna burden
conspiracy.
me, and
Yeah.
yeah, and so that's such an interesting thing, I think, for people to realize that there is room, you should leave room for the discussion, and that's okay.
Question for you. So, Rob and your daughter. Now, by the way, I don't know your daughter. She did star in a music video that you and I
Mm.
conspired on, right? Collaborated
Mhm.
on. Uh, I have no doubt. I mean, I've spoken to Rob, also an extremely bright fellow. I have a little issue with him, and you know why, but we're not going to go there.
Hmm.
He kissed my sister in high school. You remember
Oh,
that. But
right, that
anyway,
issue.
yes. So anyway, I don't get over these things. That's a
I
transgression.
see that.
But no, but he's a super bright guy. And I can only assume that your daughter also, she's bright, she's talented. Uh, that aside, were they able to adopt and utilize these tools that you describe in the book? Did they have that same ability that you do?
Um, y yes. I know that for Rob is very good at finding the funny. So he helped keep me laughing throughout this whole journey. That's his natural instinct is to look for something to laugh at. And I adopted that from him. Like he my mindset goes to what can we laugh at because I live with him. And my daughter does that too. So that part comes easy for them.
Tell me a good Rob breast cancer joke.
Oh my goodness. Breast
Is that a thing?
cancer. I don't even know if he has a breast cancer joke.
I mean, you
But
were
I
going through it, and there were times he made you laugh.
Yeah, I mean, there are things like I'm thinking like if something was happening at the dinner table and it was getting tense or anything, he would walk out of the room and walk back in wearing a frilly pink hat with like ribbon, like one of my funny hats, and just sit down and keep eating. Like, and like my daughter and I would look up and just go, "Oh, we're supposed to just laugh now." Like he just would change any tough situation and make it lighter.
Was he doing that, do you believe, more for him or for you?
That's I think for everyone, because yes, for me, but also when things are lighter, it's easier for him. So for all of us.
Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah. Yes. True.
So tell us just a little bit. First of all, tell everyone where they can get the book. And by the way, my feedback to you, I already told you, and I'm very I think it's terrific. In fact,
Thank
I don't
you.
even read anymore. I mean, so
Huh.
my feedback to you is what, like I said, everyone has probably told you, which is you got to narrate it and put it on Audible.
I will. It will be
Yeah.
up by the end of the summer.
By the end of the okay, so maybe I'll get that too, but I
Okay.
do expect that I'm gonna finish the book. Um, so tell everyone where they can get it, what it's called, where they can get it, all of that stuff.
Let's see. Here is, I just got a hardcover copy. So it's my first hardcover copy.
Wow, look at that. Hey, all
Um,
right.
it is available at any bookseller. It's on Amazon. Apple has the ebook. Barnes and Noble has it available now. Anywhere you could get a book, you can go. It probably is not in your store, but they have the ability to order it. So you just ask for it and they'll bring it into the store.
So, okay, good. So they could order it at stores. So is there a point at which Barnes and Noble will stock it?
Yeah, I mean, the one near me, I went in and said, I want to do a book signing. So they ordered the book. So it'll be stocked in my store. I mean, you realize that a store has so much space, they're not going to stock every book ever written.
Only the
But
most
people,
worthy.
the word, right? So if you ask for the book, they usually, if a few people ask for the book, then they decide
Got
to
it.
stock it.
Okay,
So
so they probably will. So all you have to do is hit every Barnes and Noble in America now.
yes, just,
When
and
is
please
this
help
book signing?
I'm waiting to hear from Barnes and Noble in Freehold, New Jersey, and
I know
probably
the
that'll
one.
be in the next month.
Yes,
So,
I know the one.
okay, good. You'll
And
come to that.
what are people telling you about the book? I mean, I know you're hearing good things. I know it has 5 stars on Amazon.
Yeah.
And what are people saying about it? And has anyone said anything critical and unexpected?
Yeah, I had one review that was not great, and I was told obviously there's going to be reviews that are not good as it gets
Yeah.
out into the world.
But
But
was it not great in a fun way?
it wasn't. It was in a
Oh.
way that, I mean, obviously I'm defensive, but it sounded like it was a man who sounded like he didn't get the point of the story. Like there was one story in the book about how I re-scripted this thing where I learned I had to pay so much money and then learned I had to pay a lot less money. And I turned that into, I just earned $88,000 today because I learned I didn't have to pay that. And he said, well, she doesn't realize that a lot of people don't have health insurance and have to pay that kind of money. But the story wasn't about that. Like, I just didn't feel like he understood the story or
Right,
what the point
right.
of the book is. Um,
And that's what it is,
and
dealing with the public, right? There are some people that aren't gonna get it. They're gonna focus on weird, unusual things.
yes, right. And so I felt it was weird, but I also know that I might be being defensive and maybe the book doesn't. And obviously, the book is not going to appeal to everyone. But the things that I am hearing and people are writing in reviews is that it's changing people's minds about dealing with any obstacle. Like you actually can think differently.
Right. Which
And
is exactly what you want.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
you can, because your thoughts are your choice. So think the way
I'm wondering also if there are people that, now this guy hit on something that was just silly and obscure and, whatever. He had an axe to grind. But I'm wondering if there are people out there that just don't have the capacity to get it because, this idea to some people who are so used to reacting, right? Stimulus response, stimulus, and that's their lives. They can't even hear you when you're talking about choosing your own feelings and attitudes.
right. Obviously, there are people like that. And then this isn't the book for them. Like, unless they are open to
It's
the
definitely
idea.
the book to them for them. Yeah.
So it is right if they're open, but if they're not going to be open to it, then they're probably just going to be like, this is annoying. And this is just a Pollyanna who pretends that everything is fine. I guess that's always been my fear, that people will just think, oh, you're just like you're not living in reality. But it is my reality. So
The reality that you chose, that again, the societal attitudes are it's just counter to societal act. Everyone knows that when you get a diagnosis of cancer, you have to panic and shit your pants. I mean, that's everyone knows that, right? And I feel like the everyone knows might be the biggest obstacle for someone like you or for anyone to change their mind and their thoughts about something.
yes, I think that's really the exact point of all of this, is that everyone knows this because that's the rule, that's the plan, that's the system we follow. And it was like the minute I got my diagnosis, they put me on this conveyor belt with everyone else who has the diagnosis, and you follow the path that everyone goes through. You see certain doctors, you feel a certain way, you act a certain way, you do certain things, and you're going to feel this terrible way. And hopefully everything will then get better. And I just didn't like what was going on that path. And then
You
I,
said
I would,
screw it.
what?
You said screw it.
I said, screw it.
You chose the path less traveled. The
Yeah,
road
but it
less traveled.
wasn't traveled, and it was like I had to actually make it up because no one was there before. Like,
Yeah.
so it was like going, there was this nice carved path, or you could get into the jungle and not see where you're going. But I had to do that because I didn't like the path. So
This is great. Nika, this is what I want to do. I want to continue this discussion. There's some other things I want to discuss, like how you've also used this to enhance your business. You have all this great content. I mean, in the book, every few pages, it's like, here's a tool that you could use to accomplish what I'm talking about. And I clicked on something, and now apparently I have several AI accounts.
oh,
I don't know what to do with that. I have a feeling nothing good could come from that. But um, let's talk more. Can you come back next week? It doesn't have to be next week. It could be
yes,
whenever.
I can. Let's do it.
Okay, that's what we're gonna do. Yeah, this is fun.
Awesome. Great. Good. Good. Because I have loads of meetings today, and this was so much fun, and we could talk for hours more.
Shall I do more of my impression of Roberta?
Um,
Your mom's name is Roberta, right?
yes.
My daughter, no one is like her. She ate a tumor and she shits rainbows. What do you
I
think? Is that a good
I don't
impression?
I don't know if it's
You don't know what
exactly
to
her
say.
thoughts, but
You don't know what this. I've never seen you speechless. We better end this thing. Okay. All right. Goodbye, everyone. We'll see you next week.